Would you like to see the big picture of the world markets? The macro technical analysis so we can break down Bitcoin, Ethereum, gold, the S&P futures, the NASDAQ, the dollar, and more? Let's break it down together. Let's look at all these different assets, see if there's something we can find out in the probabilities that'll expose where we're going in the weeks ahead. Let's break it down. I do this every single Friday. Hit the like button, comment, subscribe. Let's jump on into it. My name's Sam Price, the Crypto Lifer. Let's have a blast. Let's deep dive. First thing we're going to look at is BTC, all right? We're on Bitcoin, and we're going to look at Bitcoin on the weekly, all right? We're going to have we just had a monthly candle close. We're going to look at that too as well. I'd like this monthly candle to rip up. The monthly candle kind of for a wick, you kind of have to have the beginning for a dip and then a pump. So you kind of did want to dip today on the first of the month, even the first few days of the month, because if you don't get that, you can get a flat candle. Most of the green candles that have pumped, look at them. They've had a little bit of a wick to the downside. That means the month has started red and we've pumped up. Month has started red, we've pumped up. Month has started red. This is the same scenario, so there's some bullishness to this idea that we could get a big move to the upside. This is also the biggest monthly candle in history of Bitcoin. Shout out to Bitcoin, great job. And there's a chance that this is in my mind, this is a rising wedge on the monthly, that if it just continues to do what it does, the market structure suggests this thing can continue to break out, and we're going to head somewhere to about $169,000, $168,000. So this is still on par, $82,000 support on the monthly. We take a look at the weekly. The weekly is a little different, right? The weekly, we could look at it two ways. You could say it's still inside the pattern this way, and you could also say that it broke out. In my opinion, the weekly broke out, and it's just going to retest this top trend line. So I would extend this, and I would kind of move this here like such. See this? This is kind of like a spider line here. You can see we had a bounce off it there, a resistance off it there, and Bitcoin, as long as we stay above this diagonal line, looks like we can continue to bounce further to the upside, keep the trend alive. If we lose this trend, we drop to 98, and we could possibly drop to 81,000. So it's not all love, but it does show support that we're above that that horizontal trend line, right? So right now I'm looking for Bitcoin to hold support above 109,000. And it looked like people front run the fact that, yeah, maybe it comes out lower, but we're going to buy it before that happens. So what do I see happening for Bitcoin in the weeks ahead? Well, originally, I was looking for an uptrending flag before this flag turned red. I did say, though, we are far from the 21, but it was curving. I'm looking for this flag to continue. I'm looking for Bitcoin to bounce and just kind of continue in some type of triangle here on the weekly. I believe it's more probable Bitcoin goes up like this and goes sideways, pulls the 21 towards it, and then continues on its bigger move to the upside, out this flag, right, somewhere to about $147,000. So I'm more bullish than bearish on Bitcoin. However, there's a possible bearish scenario here that Bitcoin does pull back. I don't know what's going to happen for sure. I am not a soothsayer. I'm not a psychic. I just go by the probabilities. We are away from the 21. When I look at the 3-day chart and the 5-day chart, we're a little far from the 21-day moving average. Not too far, though. So here's the deal. What you're really looking for is and I'm going to show you the daily right now. You're going to look for this daily to produce what's called a broadening falling wedge like this. Bounce back to the top of the channel, okay? And continue to pump. Even possibly make an inverted head and shoulder here back to the upside. If you really want insight, you want to watch your 4-hour. You want to make sure that the 4-hour never lets go of the 200 moving average, the yellow line right here. As long as we bounce back above that, all is well. This was just a liquidity run, and we're good to go. If we lose the 4-hour 200 moving average, we're likely to drop somewhere back down to 110 and 109,000. So that's your macro Bitcoin update. We really need to see a bounce on this daily. We want to see this bounce back to the upside. Otherwise, if you lose the 4-hour 200 moving average, even though this is the macro update, the 4-hour really holds the key right now, and you want to see the 4-hour moving average bounce. If you do not get that bounce, you likely could see lower Bitcoin. If you get the bounce, we stay above the 200 moving average, which we're doing right now. Head and shoulder pattern, the broadening wedge, and we're still intact for the bounce further to the upside. So it does look like when we come back next week, Bitcoin will have made this 1, 2, 3, 4 days, 5, and maybe kind of making the right shoulder when I come back on my macro analysis. Let's take a look at the total market cap in all of cryptocurrency. All right, this is total. And it's basically almost the exact same scenario, right? We need to see total break bounce. So we'll bring this a little lower. There's some support. We would like to see total bounce. And let's take a look if total is bouncing off the 4-hour 200. I bet it is because Bitcoin dominance is so heavy. Yeah. So again, we're hitting a support. If we bring this a little lower, we do have more support right there, which we wicked to 3.65, 365, huh? And we're above the 200 moving average. We just want to see this bounce and turn into an inverted head and shoulder. And then we can be on our way to continue to pump. We lose this 200 moving average on the 4-hour. We're coming back to 3.5 and then maybe lower. So watch your 4-hour yet again. Same scenario. Let's delete everything and kind of zoom out for your weekly. And so when you're looking at this on the weekly, it's the same scenario here, but you're a little closer to support, which is good. You know, Bitcoin has a bigger gap. The total market cap is very close to resistance, which is a support. So we're just looking for this to flag out, really. You know, 4 to 5 weeks of sideways price action maybe for the altcoins, and then bang, we could get a breakout, and it may not take that long. It could be a little smaller, and it may be an uptrending flag too. But I'd like to see consolidation above $3.6 trillion for the total market cap. Let's look at total 3. It's the entire market cap of all of cryptocurrency, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. All right, we want to kind of see what's happening to total 3 here. On total 3, you're basically getting tighter in the zone. And what I'd like to see is I'd like it to choose this channel to get tight in. 2-3 more weeks of up and down price action and then a breakout in the altcoins. We're going to take a look at ETH Bitcoin. That's going to give us more insight. But this is really what you're looking for. Again, same scenario here. You're pretty far. You're on the 4-hour 200 moving average. You lose that, you drop down to test. You bounce above it. You know, we get this movement. We can get this shoulder, head, right shoulder, and the altcoins can continue to break out like we're looking for. So we're looking for this smaller flag here to kind of channel up. We're looking for Bitcoin for these altcoins to get very tight for the breakout and continue up. That next bigger target would be 1.69 trillion, but we can't lose the 4-hour 200 moving average. Next thing we want to look at is Bitcoin dominance. We want to see how much money is flowing in or out of Bitcoin comparatively. When the market gets sketchy, people like to sell their alts into Bitcoin to try to stop the bleeding a little bit. We saw that today. People sold altcoins for Bitcoin. Also, people buying Bitcoin on the dip, which creates a bit of Bitcoin dominance. And it's almost a W, higher low. That's a cup with a handle that did break out. But you're below the daily 200 moving average in the 21 crossed. Whenever we get that this way, we usually get a bullish move to the upside. So we're looking for this to kind of slump over, fill this flag out, and then continue lower and let altcoin season continue to rip. If we get above the 200 moving average on the daily, Bitcoin's coming back on some massive tear, and we got to be careful. I'd like sideways price action for Bitcoin. Let the alts kind of slowly get a little bit of market share, and then when Bitcoin kind of gets ready again and the altcoins and Bitcoin pump together, we actually get a bigger pump in altcoins, and this is what this could happen. This is what this is saying here by Bitcoin dominance. Let's take a look at Tether dominance. Tether dominance should be also dropping. That's what you want to see. A little spike up today with the fear, but I mean, why would you want to jump into Tether? I'll show you the DXY, and that thing tanked. So like, you're basically pegging yourself to a tanking asset. At least the altcoins aren't pegged to the USD. That gives them an edge, honestly, seriously. Like, you know, I was saying the other day, putting money into Stellar Lumens when we got our checks, you know, our $2,000 checks back in the day, that would have panned out better than holding it in USD, despite the volatility in cryptocurrency. You know, this looks. We want to see this. We want to see this continue lower. We would like to see this break down and dump, lose that support, and continue lower. Very important it does this. If this goes on some major tear back up, it means some black swan, something's going on with the crypto market. So we'd like to see this bear flag continue down to the downside. Tells me to look at the DXY now in conjunction with that, and you can see massive dump right now. So the value, you may not have seen it. So people may have jumped into Tether dominance, so the dominance may have gone up, but the value in Tether dropped because it's pegged to the dollar, and the dollar tanked. I'd like to see the dollar continue the streak down, make this right shoulder look, shoulder, head, right shoulder, and take a dump down. And this would be Bitcoin's kind of movement back up, and bang, the dollar drops down to 90, right? And we lose that $100 $100 level, 100 level again and start to drop. So that's what I'm looking at for the DXY. Everything is kind of forming the way we want it. So far, so good. Let's take a look at the S&P futures, which look like they were going to continue to pump. Beautiful pump, but then today with the jobs report, everything kind of went haywire. The jobs report came in whack. Jerome Powell was super, super hawkish about no rate cuts in September, even though the CME Watch tool is screaming that we will get an 80% rate hike, 80% chance we get a rate hike in September. It's not 95, it's in the midst, and we don't know. Is it political? Is it back and forth? Everyone's pointing fingers. Whatever it is, it's definitely stressing the market and making people second guess. We hit the first target I had at 64.50, only to come back down. But that was the first target. I did expect some resistance there, but we came down pretty hard. Now let's take a look here on the S&P. So I've been calling for a big pump. I've nailed this one. I've nailed that one. Now what is likely going to happen? Let's take a look at the weekly. The weekly is getting overbought. And on the stochastics RSI, and you did make a higher high, but you're kind of in some bearish div. So I got to say, there's some bearish divergence on the S&P. Last time I've seen that, you do come back down to a support. So finally made a bearish div on the weekly too, which is a pretty big time frame. Let's take a look at our 3-day chart. So your only basically hope is that they print money like we wouldn't believe. The 3-day resets, but we somehow stay above support. So it's likely you're going to dump. In most scenarios, this is coming back down to like a 618. So you'd be drawing a fib here, and you'd be saying the level of 5,400 looks likely, definitely 56.8. But, because they're printing so much money, there's a chance that this just kind of goes sideways for the next week or few weeks. We do get that rate cut in September, and it just forces the markets to rip again. So, I'm looking for this scenario, even though it's unlikely with the way probability is supposed to play out by markets. But we're in a different scenario than we've normally been in. So I'm looking for this to kind of go sideways here. But I don't see a big pump coming for the S&P. It looks like sideways price action for the next few weeks. Looks we had a really good time to make some money. Almost every trade on my NASDAQ when it played out. Now we reset and we wait for better opportunity. You don't force trades just because. This was a rising wedge too. Remember last time I said it looks like we'll make a flag or, have to come back to the 21. I said I do see some type of pullback because we're gapping away from the 21 on that 3-day chart. We did beautiful. Same scenario here. We're going to have to stay above this resistance to connect to the 21. The key idea here is we're not that far from the 21, which makes sense that this could happen. If the 21 was really far away on this pump, you'd have to say a big dump was coming. But because the 21 is pretty close to price, we may be able to fend off the bears here and get this sideways price action. So again, I don't see a huge pump. I do see a move back up, which would be pretty big for everyone. But then I see sideways price action, and I still call a $27,469 NASDAQ. ETH Bitcoin really shows you where the altcoin market goes. And we don't want to see this flag break down. We want to see ETH Bitcoin, Ethereum Bitcoin, stay inside this flag. It's a crucial moment here. If it loses this and this kind of Adam and Eve's, and we dump the length of the pole, which I have here to 2861, that's going to be struggled for the altcoin season. It's not going to be great for altcoin season. This bounces here and goes more sideways. It tells us we're on par for alt season, even if it might take a little bit towards the end of August. So I'd like to see this bounce and for this to consolidate. I don't want to see ETH and Bitcoin both collapse and then ETH drop down to its 200 moving average there on that 3-hour. And the 2-hour, if it loses it's basically on the 2-hour 200 moving average. You see, once it loses that, it'll drop to the 3-hour 200 moving average. I backtested this for years and saw it on multiple assets. That's just kind of what happens. You can learn it with me, or you could backtest it so you'll know what I'm saying. But go to the 3-hour or the 2-hour. Watch how you lose moving averages. Once you lose the 200, you go to the 3-hour. Basically, you kind of lose moving averages on the smaller time frame first, and then you go to lose them on the bigger. And that's how big dumps happen. I've watched it in succession for years. So that's ETH, Bitcoin. Last thing I want to look at was gold. It looked bullish to me. With all the uncertainty, you would think gold would kind of stay inside this flag and continue. That's what I see happening, but it looks like it's just delaying its bigger pump. So I'm just going to redraw this flag here, redraw this flag there, just to kind of clean this up, bring us to the daily now, and show you the gold is still consolidating, and I see no reason why it doesn't break out sooner than later. And this tells me that the dollar is weak, and we should get a weak dollar. And this also tells me that Bitcoin and altcoins should bounce because it also could be a black swan event, and a black swan event right? Gold takes precedent, so we'll see. But I am calling a $4,100 bar of gold somewhere by possibly the end of October, man. So it looks like gold's going to go on another tear. Might even be a perfect buy right now. Remember, gold calmed down? Looks like gold may be ready for its next big move to the upside. So gold may be the trade in the next few days. Daily's oversold, inside the flag, tight moving averages. Gold looks ready, baby. I might actually post gold to the trading group, and we can trade gold on BTCC. Here on BTC, you can trade Tech 100, which is the NASDAQ. You can trade gold by just typing in gold. And we can trade gold USD. That's with your tether. So you can basically trade gold. And right now, I'm going to start looking at this. I may actually make this trade. You know, it's funny. A few weekends ago, I traded gold on the weekend, and it played out. It's interesting. I don't like to trade on the weekends, but gold looks like it's setting up for a breakout. That's a pretty good entry here on this Friday afternoon. So anyway, that's your macro analysis video where I break down kind of the bigger picture. We look at the total market cap of cryptocurrencies, the total market cap of all the altcoins. We look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin dominance, Tether dominance, the DXY, ETH Bitcoin, gold, the S&P, and the NASDAQ, and give you like a whole big picture of where we're going and what's happening. If you like this technical analysis and the way I did it, and it gave you good knowledge, you felt the nice calm pace, come to my live stream every single day, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., and Saturday and Sunday nights at 8 p.m. I'm the Crypto Lifer. No one streamed more than me in the cryptocurrency industry. No one's been more consistent. I can say that. You can ask anybody in the entire space. They'll tell you I am the most consistent streamer. No days off for over 1,700 streams, and we continue to push every single day. I'll see you tomorrow, Saturday morning and Saturday night. I can't wait to see you on my next live stream. Come on, hit the like button, subscribe, comment, and jump on in. Become a Crypto Lifer today.